Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. This one's a little weird. This one's actually a little... Okay. So, for as long as I've been in the cryptocurrency space, governments, banks have never really had anything nice to say about us. I told you before... many times. One of the reasons why it took me so long to actually enter... Wow, what was that? Oh my gosh. To actually enter the cryptocurrencies, that was terrible. To enter the cryptocurrency space was because of now I know lies that I heard about the space. Bitcoin's only used by criminals. Bitcoin is a blah, blah. I mean, you name it, you've heard it all before. One of the saving graces came in the form of a company and multiple companies who began to announce years ago that they were actually scouring through online chain data to figure out who these criminals were within the space. And that's when we found out that less than 0.5%, so less than half of 1% of transactions could have been deemed illegal or illicit, or maybe had to do with something that governments might not like. That's why I think we're slowly seeing more people getting into the cryptocurrency space, because the lies, you're not able to lie as easily as you were before about Bitcoin. Since then, it's kind of morphed into well, the governments aren't saying it out loud anymore because they realize you can't lie about these things because internet really fast. But then you have the Jamie Dimons and the Peter Schiffs and the Warren Buffetts and other people similar to them who are also dwindling in numbers because everyone realizes that Bitcoin's not this crazy evil thing. Who still consistently talk about Bitcoin is a farce, Bitcoin is so-and-so, and it's like, okay, cool. What I wasn't expecting over the years is to see billionaires and millionaires entering into our space who used to lie about us before, now standing on our side. Even crazier is this news today. So for those of you who do not know the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and all these other organizations, they're basically the people who kind of control and say what happens to money around the world. So even central banks have a central bank. And then there's also organizations like the IMF, who basically, for lack of this is realistic, they go around bullying other countries, telling them what they can and cannot do with their money. And what they do with their money has to usually directly and or indirectly benefit the US dollar in some sort of way. So this is why, for those of you who weren't here years ago, go back to 2018, 2019. That's when I began to be like, okay, something really big is going on here. Because we heard that there were multiple countries, who were thinking about using Bitcoin as a form of legal tender. But the only one who really stood out was El Salvador. And that was even when we heard and they told us that they were being bullied by the IMF to not allow Bitcoin to be legal tender because it undermines the US dollar. There were 3 other countries within the Middle East who also announced that they were going to be adopting Bitcoin, but they were going to be doing it in the form of bonds. So they would be accumulating Bitcoin and they would be issuing bonds. Google it. Type in 3 countries, Bitcoin bond IMF. What happened was the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, as far as we understand from the news that we received, the public, is that they told these countries, if you adopt Bitcoin in this way, we're going to stop giving you foreign aid. We will stop giving you money that we've been giving you. So stop what you're doing. So there's been a lot of countries who've been trying to adopt Bitcoin and they weren't able to. So imagine my surprise when this news popped out. I don't know why I'm doing this. It makes a lot of sense. When this news popped up that the IMF was actually talking about Bitcoin again. But then I read what they said and it felt gross. I feel like, imagine the Joker at some point knocking on Batman's door and being like, I'm sorry. Remember all the stuff I said? I didn't mean to. You want to go have some cake? Like, that's kind of what it felt like. The International Monetary Fund wrote an entire PDF page thing, long, I don't know what to call this thing, a paper. English. Paper, it's 43 pages long, and they discuss Bitcoin. It's called A Primer on Bitcoin Cross-Border Flows, Measurement, and Drivers. If you've been following this channel or the other channel, we have seen a rather significant jump in countries around the world who are inadvertently adopting Bitcoin. Argentina, most of Latin America, Brazil, a lot of parts of Africa and Southeast Asia, and also in like eastern parts of Europe. Their currencies aren't doing too well. And as such, we've been getting news for years that a large level of accumulation, so we hear about whale news and we hear about rich people and ETFs and BlackRock. What people are also missing out on is that like also normal people are buying Bitcoin. So you're buying Bitcoin, your friend's buying Bitcoin, and so is someone else. And then you have the people who are undergoing and living under like a proper 40% inflation, 50% inflation. There are some countries, if you've seen their currencies, are literally like collapsing right now. You would assume that these people would be doing something, and they are. The normal citizens are actually buying Bitcoin as a hedge against their rapidly inflating currencies. So you sit there and you go, that's a little weird. Who would choose Bitcoin as a hedge? Well, they usually don't have access to the US dollar, which also isn't doing pretty well. And their local currency is poo-poo garbage. So the dips of 3 to 4% in Bitcoin's price is nothing compared to a 70% drop in value over the course of a year. So they'll gladly deal with those dips down, especially since the beginning of this year, we've seen Bitcoin pumping in price. One of the really interesting things about Bitcoin is that it's for everyone. So you've heard me say that a lot of times. I would personally prefer if the mega whales out there, if all those coins were actually distributed amongst the 8 billion people we have on the planet as Bitcoin was meant to be and created by Satoshi. You can't disagree with me there. The problem is that it's usually in the hands of the rich, as many other things that we see. But it is nice to note that normal people are also accumulating Bitcoin. This has led to a massive shift in the world. For those of you who are unaware or simply don't know how the world works, rich people usually tend to not rich people. Even normal people. This goes even higher when you go to like the banks. You may not have lived in an area like this, but I was born in an area like this. I was born in the States. There were no banks. We didn't have banks around us. We had check cashing places or something similar to it, where that was the only access to your money that you actually had. You could not open up a bank account, or you had to go somewhere else in the city to be able to do so. And usually they would also like reject you because they'd be like, you don't have enough money to open a bank account. You think it's a joke? This is how banks still are. It actually even extends a lot further when you're not even in some place like the States, when you're in parts of Latin America, parts of Africa, and parts of Asia where there are definitely no banks. You don't have access to bank accounts. There are people, and this has been going on for a while, there are people in Africa, you know how they actually deal in money because they don't have access to a bank account? They put credit or time or money onto their mobile phones and they transfer it between themselves. So when they go shopping, one of them was called M-Pesa. They literally will like spend time on their phones. Imagine you have 45 minutes of talk time on your phone. They would go to a store and they would spend minutes to buy stuff. This is what happens when you are pushed out of the actual financial system. What fixes that? Yes. A system that was created for 8 billion people to be able to use whenever they want, however they want, with no one telling them that they can't use it. So we've known for a while that that's what Bitcoin is for and what it's now being used as. the weird part? The International Monetary Fund has a direct, indirect hand in where banks are actually situated. Being able to tell countries, you can't do this or we're not going to give you money anymore. That's kind of, it's shady and gross, but it also lets you know that they control the flow of where money goes. So imagine my surprise when they wrote a 42, 43 page paper talking about the benefits of something they've been talking negatively about for about 14 or so years. It says Bitcoin is increasingly serving as a financial channel, financial channel for cross-border financial flows. The report is called a primer on Bitcoin cross-border flows, and it shed light on how, because Bitcoin is decentralized, it can be leveraged to bypass traditional banking systems, especially in regions experiencing economic distress or strict capital control. Who the fudge is making all of those strict capital controls in the economic distress? Oh, it's almost like the people who wrote this article are causing, there are 4 billion people on the planet who are unbanked because of this system that the IMF has set up. Oh, and the World Bank and also JP Morgan, all the usual suspects. That's so weird. Why would they be writing? According to the International Monetary Fund, residents of countries with restrictive financial regulations are turning to Bitcoin to move capital across borders more freely. Remember when I said I felt like a little gross, like a little cringe at the beginning? Imagine going to school. No, never mind. I didn't even have to give you a story. The people who made the system the way that it is them. It's the IMF. And they wrote a paper on how Bitcoin is changing things around the world and making it easier for people to send money to their families. Over the last couple of years, I usually don't make videos about it because it usually ends up being like, I don't want to tug at anyone's heartstrings, or like it's kind of like sad sometimes. A lot of people have written articles online. I'm sure you can find them if you want to go find them. I've written articles online about like, I've been using Western Union or MoneyGram for years. When I try and send money to my family in country, it costs like $17 to be able to do so. I'm only sending around $12 because I myself don't have that much money. These people have written articles and said that they turned to crypto, not only buying small amounts of Bitcoin, and then the value of it grew quite high over the years. They were able to send it to their mother and to their grandmother and to their family members. Now these people can pay rent. And they said it's crazy that these people are trying to restrict us from buying and using Bitcoin. All because the people who made the monetary controls that are in place want to keep them in place so that they continue to be in power. Because you can continue to lie and say that every transaction is going to be illicit. Every transaction is going to be something evil. People do the same crap with the US dollar as with the euro, as with the yen. I've learned in life, if people want to be evil, they're going to be evil. If you want to do something bad, you're going to do something bad. That's just the nature of how people are. If you are trying to send money to your family member, to someone else in a country that does not have access to the things that you currently have and where you're living, you should have the right to do so. And then to even make sure that you keep the system the way that it is to make it more restrictive on people. Constantly. You make sure that not only are you printing money to keep you and your friends richer, you do it to debase other currencies to make sure that those people remain poorer because they have no access to the system that you created and you are constantly keeping in place. There's a couple of countries where they've also actually banned, like not China, banned. Banned, you can't use it. Cannot use crypto at all. You can't buy it, can't hold it, can't sell it, can't look at it. And I said years ago when I first started these channels back in 2016, 2017, there's going to be a really weird reckoning that's going to happen by people in these countries who are going to be like, you told us we couldn't buy that when it was 50 cents. It is now future money, worth more. Look at how rich we could have become off of what you lied to us about. to make a system and not want to change. You know how easy? Do you understand how easy it would be for the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, mega banks around the world to open up little areas, little banking areas around these countries to make sure that 4 billion people have access to this system? And they choose not to. Someone 15 years ago created Bitcoin and said this is for everyone. And there's been a hate campaign that's gone on ever since to continue lying about this space that would have benefited billions of people. Do you understand how disgusting and slimy that it is? To have your main narrative be, well, people will use Bitcoin for illegal things. The number one thing that still gets thrown out there is the idea of money laundering. Money laundering, for those of you who don't know, is an idea that was created. We haven't always had money laundering. Countries understand that capital controls are very important for them because they want the money to continuously flow within their borders. Because when they make a terrible economic policy and things begin to fall apart, people are going to want to move their money elsewhere. The problem is you make that illegal. You say you can't do that because the problem is we need your money here. If you move your money without telling us, well, that's illegal. You can't do that. You have to keep your money within the system constantly because they know that when they mess up, the money is moving elsewhere. How do you fix that? How do you make sure that we never have to live under that? Make money worldwide. Make it everywhere for everyone so that there is no system where when the US, when Europe, when some Asian country messes up their economic system once again and their system falls, we can still pay in Bitcoin because Bitcoin is worldwide. It's everywhere. There are no capital controls. Imagine still trying to live. No, it makes sense. I was going to say, imagine still trying to live in the 1700s. But the people, you ever seen those people who have like generational wealth? You ever wondered where that generational wealth came from and why these people still run the banks and run the systems and try to keep everything in place? Why the idea of Bitcoin, a decentralized system for everyone, is such a threat. The people who create the money create the rules. What happens when everyone can create the money? When everyone has access to the system and you can't be told no? Who has the power? The people have the power. And to sit there as the International Monetary Fund and write a 42-page paper talking about the benefits of something that you have continuously spit on is nasty. It's actually even kind of rude. When I talk about what the future is going to be like and looking like more and more as Bitcoin continues to take over, it's that system I was just talking about. We don't understand what actual economic freedom means. We can't imagine it because we've been told to be afraid for so long. If you move your own money, you're going to get in trouble. You're flying to another country. You have to tell us if you're taking money out of your country. Everything is constantly a problem. You want to use crypto? You want to use this? You got to sign up for this. You got to follow by the rules because you're going to do something illegal with your own money. I'm just going to buy a TV. That sounds illegal to me. How much is that TV? It's $11,000. Nope. You got to write paperwork for that because that's also illegal. We're not talking about these people in Latin America and Africa, East Europe, normal Europe, the Americas, Asia, sending tens of thousands of dollars to their family back and forth. These people are sending $200-$300 so their family can pay their rent and get some food. What exactly is illegal about that? Tell me explicitly. I'll even give you in this instance. Cool. Sending more than 10K is illegal. Now, what about the other 4 billion people on the planet who are trying to send money back to their families so these people can eat, pay their rent, buy clothes? Every month, you know it's less. Shut off. You know it's less than $1,000. What's illegal about that? Why can't people send money to their families and to their friends to help them live a slightly more normal life? I tried not to scream and get hyped during this video. I know I failed like 18 times. You know how tired I am of knowing that a system exists that we can get away from right now, but we're like being like strangled to hold on to it, to keep people like these billionaires in the same exact positions where they are. Keep them there elevated forever. And we're told on the news how amazing and awesome these people are all the time. Look at how he's rich. Look at how amazing he is. He did it all by himself. And then you find out, no, he didn't. He was born rich and now he's richer. And he's taking money and food out of the mouths of other people around the world. Constantly, consistently, over and over and over. You know who inflation doesn't affect? It's the people who run that system. The people who, while we were told in 2020 to be terrified and stay home, remember how they made like $114 billion amongst themselves and weren't staying home? Doesn't this all seem kind of gross? Over and over. I mean, desperately. I want nothing more economically and financially than for 4 billion people around the world to buy Bitcoin. If Bitcoin, as the analysts say, as the rich people keep saying, is going to 100K, going to 150,000, if we get a $500,000 Bitcoin, you know who I want to own Bitcoin the most? It's you. It's people out, it's everyone else out there except for the wealthy people. Because I want them to know what it feels like to have money, to not have to worry. You need some money? I'll send it to you. I'll send it through Bitcoin. I'll send it through the Lightning Network. You don't have to worry anymore. That's the future that we could have. Sorry. I know I get quite intense in a lot of my videos, but it's like, are you joking? The International Monetary Fund wrote something like this, talking about the benefits of something that they've talked negatively about for 15 years. And guess what? Even in the thing that they wrote, one of the things, even when they said that they wrote Bitcoin has become a necessary financial tool. They literally wrote towards the end of it, well, we have to continue to keep track of it because of money laundering and illicit financial activities that could take place. I think that's going to do it for this video. Because I think it's time for me to relax. Where we are going is someplace that we couldn't have imagined a number of years ago. I still think that the people who hold crypto are going to be the new wealthy, the new well-off, the new middle class or upper middle class in the future. I believe it. I mean, explicitly, there's nothing in my mind telling me otherwise. Not from this halving, not from the next halving, not from the one after that, especially after. And I think it's been one of my goals over the last 8 years to make sure that you also know that. To be kept aware of what's going on, when it's happening, the levels of accumulation. We've been here through thick and thin. We've been here since Bitcoin, was up and fell back down to $1,000. And we've been here through all the rises, and you've seen how much the market has changed and how many rich people are salivating at the mouths. I don't want them to have everything. They already have everything. I want the new world. When you talk about a wealth transfer, I want it to be for us. I want it to be for you. I want it to be for your kids. I want it to be for your family. I'm tired of these people who control everything, controlling everything. And they keep breaking the system and then lying to all of you for just about 15 years that you shouldn't get into this amazing thing. I do hope, sincerely, that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching over the last 8 years, for liking this video, for subscribing, for just existing with me as we go through the digital mud together. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.